Tell me when.
You're good to go, Joseph.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Joseph Antel from Standard Process West. I'd like to welcome you to the webinar Wednesday with Mark Anderson. Of course, as you know, Mark is teaching on Saturday and preparing for that event. And Sarah will be putting into the chat box the registration for that, or you can go on to SeleneRiverPress.com to register for that, or Standard Process West. I don't really know which, and you'll be able to register for that. And it's my delight to be with you today and to take this hour with you related to creating nutritional protocols. Let me just mute everyone out here. Okay. When I designed my book, Adjuvant Protocols for Healing, I created this book based on my 49 years now of creating protocols with doctors and learning that from John Courtney, who started me out with that, how to look at a case and create an effective protocol. So when you look at my book, which I'll show you in 1 second, the protocols, all of the products are listed in order of importance. And so the protocols, if a client has several issues going on, and of course, this day and age, most people have at least a half a dozen things going on. So these are the principles that I learned. And I'm just going to review them briefly. When you're creating a nutritional protocol, you want to develop that confidence with that client. Putting them on too many supplements, you're not going to achieve that. And plus, you want them to be with you in that healing cycle so that they are willing to take the supplements, the amounts you give them at the time that you are recommending that they take the supplements, because it is very specific. In many cases, for instance, protomorphogens should always be taken on an empty stomach, or any product that has a protomorphogen in it. And so that's very important to realize. And so what has been tried and true for me for all these years is to really start people with 3 or 4 supplements or herbs. Now, when I say herbs, I don't usually start my clients with herbs. And I'm going to review 3 cases with you. One that I did use herbs, and I'll explain why I did that. But the initial protocol, I always start with primary products from Standard Process. And I try to keep it to 3 or 4. Now, there may be exceptions. What are those exceptions? Well, those are exceptions of people that say, listen, I'll do anything. So like some of us, we all take a lot of products. And so that is, that gives you the green light to add a few more. But I still, the initial protocol for a client that they haven't been on supplements, or they've been on a lot of synthetic supplements or herbs or any type of tincture, you want to like initiate that supplement program using just a few products, 3, or as I say, 4. And the second part of this is to always address first why they came into your office. There are 30 practitioners in your area that particular person could go to. Why did they come through your door? Why? The universe sent them. That's how I feel about it. But they found you maybe through a referral, or they heard your name, they read your bio, they went on your website, something attracted them to you because in their healing cycle, you are the right one at that time. Now, some clients, as you know, stay with you forever. Some stay for a while, even a short period of time. That's fine. But it's important to always address first why they came into the door. And because if you use that principle, you're using the principle of response. And when you develop that, you develop your protocol based on their response, you get the best results. So now there's various ways that you can take create an intake for that client. I like to use the symptom survey form because that is the basis for all of Dr. Lee's teachings, that you work endocrine, the autonomic nervous system, digestion, cardiovascular, and those are the main three things it addresses. And you'll see on these protocols why that is so important to work it that way. So the symptom survey form is based on that principle. But at the very back of the symptom survey form, there's an area for 5 major complaints. Now, some people will only give you 1 or 2. You know, I'm basically fine. Others will put more than 5. So you have that whole range of individuals that want to tell you everything, and some that don't, and some that have forgotten. Oh yeah, by the way, I had my gallbladder out 5 years ago. Well, that's important. I had a hysterectomy. That's important. So that's why that section of the symptom survey form is very important to go over with them. Now, the other thing that I recommend, and I don't at this point in my career, in my teaching, I don't know how practitioners practice without the heart sound recorder, because this is the tried and true way to see the direction of care, to see whether the protocol that you recommended is really having an influence. They are now in the healing process, or something that was recommended is not accurate for their system. The heart, being the most electrical organ in the body, will always tell you. Now, tomorrow, by the way, I'm going to be teaching my adjuvant protocols for healing based on my book, which I take a condition. But tomorrow, Lynn and I are going to teach the 10 primary findings of how to observe the heart sound recorder. I've never recorded it, and we decided to do that tomorrow because next month, as a preamble to next month, because my book next month, I'm going to feature protocols from the cardiovascular section. So if you want to be on that, if you're not on my webinar invitations, just send me an email and I'll make sure that you get on tomorrow, which is at 11 o'clock Mountain Time. Usually, again, it's an hour. Sometimes I go a little bit longer. And my email address is jantel, ANTELL 52 at AOL.com. Now, you can observe the direction that the person of care and how they're responding to the protocol you recommended by having them fill out the symptom survey form again. If you have blood work, a recent blood work, you can rerun the blood work. I would recommend in 6 weeks to 3 months to see if the protocol is having an influence there, no matter what the protocol is. But the quickest way that you can see, even in 72 hours, is the heart sound recorder. So if you don't have one, first of all, I recommend you do have one. Then find someone in your area that does. So if you have a case that walked in your door and said, look, I've been to 10 people, I'm going to try you. That's when you want to get that particular person over very quickly. So, but on the symptom survey form, and you have the information there, there's software, there's a Maestro software for that, which interprets the symptom survey form for you. But before you even do that, you can keep that as your next layer. But first, you must address the 3 or 4 major complaints, why they came to you, using protocols, which from my book is my recommendation. Now, when you initiate the cycle of any protocol, you have to give it 6 to 12 weeks. It doesn't mean you can always have a phone check-in in 2 weeks or have them come back in. Maybe if you're a chiropractor or an acupuncturist, you're going to see them anyway, but always have a check-in about how they are doing. Of course, they can always call you if after 72 hours they're having challenges or whatever, for whatever reason, but mainly give it 2 weeks. Remember, my algorithm is for every year somebody has had a condition, has had this particular challenge, you have to give nutrition 3 to 6 months for every year. Otherwise, you're being impractical. These aren't magic pills or magic substances. These substances reestablish a control at the very core of that person's metabolism, their endocrine system, their digestive system. And so that's why it is so important. Now, when you review, a lot of times clients will not have kept their agreement about lifestyle changes. Supplements alone are not necessarily going to create the outcome that you wish unless you change their diet, their sleep patterns, their exercise patterns. And sometimes they do it for a few days after they've been in, and then they forget. So when you see them again or have them call you in that 2 weeks, make sure you reaffirm what your agreement was, what your approach is going to be through supplements and through their life. Because we are changing people's lives. That's what we do in the nutritional field. So in that 6 to 12 week that cycle, I usually have another check in after the 2 weeks in a month. That's the 6 weeks. If they're doing well, they're saying, oh, I'm much better. I'm sleeping better. I don't have that discomfort. I'm in less pain or whatever it is. Then you go another 6 weeks. And then at that end of that 12-week period, that 3-month period, that's when you want to review, have them fill out the symptom survey form again, run another heart graph then. You can do some blood work then. Then you can see the next layer. You can see what else we can address in their life. If you get someone like with a closed head injury, you're going to go beyond 3 months. And Mark and I have discussed this many times, that you really, some conditions, asthmatics, we have an asthmatic case today, you're going to have to go more than 3 months. You're going to have to go 6 months to a year. And some people will have to stay on some nutrition for the rest of their lives. That's how far they've gone down. So now in most of my protocols, I always incorporate Lee's primary principle. which is how I based my protocols in my book on, what I've taught practitioners over these years, and how I've applied this with my clients, is that you always address whatever that organ, gland, or tissue that is malnourished. Now, if they have several organ, glands, and tissue, you have to choose one. You have to choose what the priority is based on what they are telling you. Listen to their life story. Listen to their journey. They will tell you what is most important for them, for you to address. And so, but Lee always worked with the specific vitamin, mineral, and associated protein, i.e. the protomorphogen, correlating with that malnourished organ, gland, or tissue. So that, in a nutshell, is the approach that I have used in all humility fairly successfully. And Dr. Lee always said, as what I've said, is these are 90% protocols. Very few times does a protocol work 100%, but you always get a good change and get them working with you in a deeper way after 6 to 12 weeks, for sure. It doesn't rule out your other modalities you're using, whether you're a massage therapist, you're an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, cranial sacral therapist, whatever you're doing, of course, is the main part of this. And nutrition plays that that partner care in their cycle of healing. So that partner care is always an important part, because no matter what modality you're using, unless tissues and systems in the human body are encouraged and given the opportunity to return to balance, you will not achieve what you wish to achieve with that person. So, and that's why we named the book Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. They are the assistant. They're the other point of agreement in your direction of care, your approach to that person, the direction you wish them to head in, your intent. So what I did with this hour is I took 3 cases that in the last 2 weeks practitioners have called me. So let me go through these and the products related, the dosing and why. So this is a young boy, 9 years old, who at birth spent too long of a time in the birth canal. And after he was born, he had this abnormal head skull molding or shape. Some call it pointed head, some call it conal head. But this boy now is physically challenged because of his appearance. Now, this can change in time, of course, and with other assistance other than nutrition that I'll review with you. But remember, this young man is going to have to work with his appearance for the rest of his life. But the reason the parents didn't even bring him in for this, the reason is he has some issues. He's an incessant talker. He has attention deficit hyperactive disorder. It's a fancy name for saying that there isn't a nutritional imbalance and maybe other imbalances. And so, and a possible a head trauma. And, you know, Mark has taught this closed head injury protocol for I almost 10 years now. And he has a whole audio on that. And that protocol that he taught is in my book. But we have found this. And Dr. Lee, if you listen to some of his recordings that you can get, again, through Saline River Press, Dr. Lee says that that closed head injury can happen at the time of birth. Now, I didn't want to say that to the practitioner, though they have been on a lot of our trainings. So they said to me, could this be a possible closed head injury, a head trauma? And I said, absolutely. You can't underestimate that. The other primary symptom, because I said to the practitioner, because they had a list of things, and I said, you give me the 3 things as to why those parents brought that child in. And so the other, interestingly enough, is this child is underweight. He doesn't have a good appetite. He gets very moody. He is up and down emotionally. And as I say, when he's up, this pattern of incessant talking. So the first product, and I'll go through each of these, that I said for, and this is from my book. Here's a photo of that page. And that's page 20 in the children's chapter, the children's section. You can see that, and again, remember the products are listed in order of importance. So the first product is OPC Synergy. Now, if we look at OPC Synergy, that product was developed by James Greenblatt, which I have a quote from him here. This product was developed in 2000, I believe. Someone could look up that year, but you can look it up in your catalog. But this product, Standard Process worked with Dr. Greenblatt, who's a psychotherapist, a medical doctor who only works with children, hyperactive children. At least he was at that time. He's gone on to other things. He had tried different nutrients, pycnogenols, different forms of pycnogenol, different forms of oligomeric anthocyanidins, OPCs. And there was a beginning burgeoning research on this. And so he created a protocol that addressed each substance that was put into this product. And many of you now, which has been out for a couple of decades, Masculaire's his grapeseed extract, because of its tremendous ability to change and return the integrity of tissue. Now, whenever the word antioxidant is used, there has been more confusion about that term and the use of it than probably any other term in reductionism. So as I teach, whenever you see the word antioxidant, as far as I am concerned, you want to think of the term cytoprotective. So it's not that you want to stop oxygen from getting into the tissue, which is what synthetic vitamins do. That is the whole premise of antioxidants. But that's not what Dr. Lee commented when he mentioned antioxidants, and it's not what we do. But there is a term that is very relevant, related to this, of providing nutrients that are going to protect the cells. So you can forget about what you learned about antioxidants and just remember it that way. Cytocell protectors. And the elements, these grapeseed extracts that have been developed are tremendous for this. And the other cytoprotective factors in this product are green tea. Now, I could do a whole hour on green tea extract. It's in Vitanox and I believe in Boswellia Complex in the MediHerb line. They have found tremendous effects or outcome from using green tea with cancer, with all kinds of breakdown in tissues. And the other that's in here is, of course, our beloved buckwheat leaf of protecting the vascular, the lumen, and bringing back the integrity of that. And of course, the phenols, again, cytoprotective elements in phenols that are in red wine extract. Thank God there's an alcohol that you can drink that helps you. So that also is in a high concentration in this product. And then, of course, bilberry. Now, bilberry became famous during World War II in the Battle of Britain because they were giving the pilots bilberry, and they were able to see and function. Their brains did not fatigue in this air battle that really was the beginning of the demise of the Nazi Germany. If the pilots had not won that war, that battle in that war, the world would have been very different. And so you can give the credit to bilberry. So OPC Synergy has these 5 components. And remember, the cytoprotective factors that strengthen and rebuild not only the vascular, the blood vessels of the body, the wall, but the collagen throughout the body. Now, why am I saying that about this 9-year-old boy? Because what Dr. Greenblatt and his colleagues found at that time, and that's why Standard was so excited to have this product, it makes a difference within hours of taking it. Now, I have not checked with this practitioner, but I have had other cases where hyperactive children, of course, the medical answer is Ritalin, and which is no answer. That is not an answer at all, using a chemical. But to begin to help the integrity of the vascular system and the nutrients' ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. Now, I have literally had cases, more than a half a dozen in my time, where parents have called me and they said, listen, my child's so hyperactive, he's home now. He's out of school. And we have put them on OPC Synergy. Usually it's 1 twice a day. The child went back to school and the doctor wrote a note to the mother in one case, I remember, that the school doctor thanked the mother for putting the child on Ritalin when she didn't. She gave him OPC Synergy. And so in this case, I dosed him. You can see that in my book, my dose, the common dose is 1 twice a day. But in his case, I bumped it up because he is so far down the road of this incessant talking and hyperactivity that I felt the higher dose would be better for him. Now, the second product that I used, of course, is Minchex. Now, we've had conversations with doctors across the country over years that now in my book, I use the, oh yes, and then I did give you a paragraph from Dr. Greenblatt him talking about how these OPCs changed, literally changed his practice, changed his life, because he began to change the life of children. And you can read this through. He also talks about using fatty acid products as well, fish oil products and other things. So, but in my book, I use for children, Mintran. But again, in this case, even though he's 9 years old, we really needed to do more and to use the product with Mintran called Orchex. Now, Mark on Saturday is going to go into this product in detail. That's why I didn't go into it in detail today. But you'll see that the combination of this, and there's no age limit to this. It's just that with most children, they do fine with Mintran, but this child is an exception to that rule. And so that's why I chose Minchex for him. And there are others, Bruce West and others, who have written about using Minchex for hyperactive children. So I wanted to give you, from my favorite book, the product bulletins, Dr. Lee, what he said. Now, I'm not going to go through each. These are for you to review and you to understand. So, and remember that Mintran is calcium lactate and organically bound minerals. And so there's an iodine factor in there. There's all the minerals that calm the body in this product: potassium, magnesium, and calcium. And of course, the advent of iodine. And you'll see that even though it has iodine, which Lee always said that iodine can even calm down the hyperthyroidism, the person with a lot of weight loss, that the iodine can actually help. Now, there's not a lot of iodine in there. It's a very safe amount through the food source of sea kelp, sea lettuce. Dr. Lee had his own farms at one point. He owned kelp farms on the coast of California, I believe. So, but this young man, if you look through what Lee was thinking about this product, weight loss, nervous tension, tense muscles, which is another element that the doctor or the parents said about him. His body is very tense, and he was not sleeping well. So the other part of the Minchex is Orchex, which, as I say, Mark is going to teach you some things about Orchex that are pretty extraordinary. And I have taught some of that over the years. But this product is a combination of orchic cytosol extract and niacinamide B6. So this product has a good part of the vasodilating, nerve relaxing B vitamins. Now remember that Dr. Lee formulated niacinamide B6, which is in Orchex, for a beloved friend of his for alcoholic depression. And in the archives, it's standard process, that story is in one of the books in those archives. So you can see that as you get to know these products and why Dr. Lee made them and what they're used for, you can see why in my book I applied those principles, those findings, those results in the prioritization. Now, the one point that I will make is Orchex contains a very specific enzyme called hyaluronidase, hard to pronounce, which that enzyme is known to this day as the spreading factor. It opens up nerve synapses. It relaxes nerve synapses. It relaxes any fluid in the body, synovial fluid, any fluid in the body that is congested or bunched up or not functioning normally. Very safe to use. And he even says, which serves usefully in hypertension. It's the main product that I use with hypertension. Now, this young man doesn't have that. Orchex is therefore admirably suited for physiological replacement where drug therapy is being used. You can use it with hypertension medication. Hypertension medication is being used with the intention of producing a tranquilizing effect. So that's why I gave this young man the both the OPC Synergy and Minchex. Now, you can see if you go return to my protocol, I had Mintran, some the fatty acids for the brain, inositol. So you could ask the question, which some of you might have thought of already. Well, Joseph, why didn't you just use this? Use these 4 products? Because he had other issues. So what I did, because these are listed in order of importance, I combined the first product, and then I combined the second product with the Orchex, which is even stronger. But basically with children, you'll just probably have good results with the Mintran. But this child is at the point where they want to give him medication, so we have to get on this quickly. And you'll see that I gave him an inositol powder too. Now, why did I give him Paraplex? If you look at Dr. Lee's basic principle of failure to thrive, underweight people, you'll see that Dr. Lee said there's always a correlation with the brain and the body. The upper part of the endocrine system with the body, but particularly the pancreas. And this is why you can give this. You can, if this young man can't swallow, you just grind them up. Now, him, you would just, an adult, you would give 4 twice a day on an empty stomach. This young man, we're just going to give 2 twice a day on an empty stomach. Empty stomach is important. So you don't want to give it to him with a full breakfast. You would give it to him if he can't swallow them, or even break them, bite them in half and then swallow them, just to get the taste in his mouth. We recommend chewing, of course, but that might not be possible for a 9-year-old. Then you can grind them up and just put them in a tablespoon of applesauce or flavored yogurt. It's a little bit of sugar, which you don't want with him, but it won't, at least you'll get it into him. That's the most important thing. So if you look through what Lee was thinking about his application of pituitary, of pituitrophin, you'll see how this applies to this young man and his endocrine system. Just remember, if there are chronic issues with individuals, know this first, that the endocrine system is not communicating. If you accept that principle and apply it, you will have more success than anyone else. And you'll do a great service to your clients. Because unless the endocrine system is first, as Dr. Lee said, which I have used throughout my book, you cannot get to where you want to go with that person. So I'm going to let you read through this. Is quite long. His implication to the pituitary, and some over the years have laughed at me that my middle name should have been pituitrophin or pituitary, because I use it in almost all cases. Almost all my initial protocols either have Paraplex, Simplex F for females, or Simplex M for males. So I'm going to let you read through, and it's interesting to note that when you apply protomorphogens, the second thing to remember as you begin to work with the protomorphogen, and especially the endocrine system, that the protomorphogens are self-regulating. If it's high, it will bring it down. If it's low, it will bring it up. So say someone with low blood pressure, and you'd want to give them drenatrophin, it will bring that lowered adrenal function up. So again, for time purposes, I'm not going to be able to give you to review all of this information with you and give you my thoughts on it. But I wanted to get it into your hands, into your application in your clinic, what Dr. Lee was thinking, because it is brilliant. But I did want to just go over the pancreatrophin, because what does he say? What was the one thing that the parents said when I was listening to this young man's journey? Doesn't have a good appetite, eats like a bird, can't put on weight. He may have either hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia. Either way, this is the application you would use. First, wasting diseases and his inability to come back to balance, to heal. Now, the last product I gave to him is an inositol. Now, again, Mark is going to review this product at some point. I don't know if it's Saturday, but another. And I am going to give a lecture on anxiety and depression. So I'm going to go into this product in detail. But again, I wanted to give this to you because this is the product. This is known as the muscle sugar vitamin. This, along with the B1, B4 factor, is the reason that that ATP, adenosine triphosphate, that Krebs cycle works. Without this range, along with B1 and B4, this vitamin B8 is essential. This is great for anyone that is hyperactive, that has brain issues, that has muscle nerve issues, i.e. sciatica. This is a great product to use for that. So, but mainly I wanted to give it to him related to his blood sugar and my concern that he does have a low blood sugar issue. And he just does not have a good appetite. Now, some of you that have been with me now for a while, you'll say, Joe, you didn't put him on Super EFF. That's the #1 product for wasting disease or failure to thrive. And you would be absolutely right. But this comes in a powder and it's so easy to take. And it has so many health benefits. I decided to pick that one. So that is this young man. Now, what are we going to do as far as lifestyle with him? Well, sleep is very important. And in my book, I gave you some of the page numbers. I didn't look them all up. You can look at about how to honor the circadian rhythm of sleep. This young man needs to be going to bed when the sun goes down. The earlier to bed, the better. Every hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 after midnight, as far as healing, restoration, and balancing body function. And of course, with this cranial issue that he has, my brother-in-law has been a cranial sacral therapist, and he's made his life's work and a good living in Kansas City, Missouri for the last 25 years. And I can tell you, he's helped children with these skull issues, all kinds of birth canal issues, but especially with that reshaping of the skull. Doesn't bring it fully back, but it really helps them. And you know what he would say if he were on today? He would say the main thing that these children do is they relax. They relax, which this young boy is not doing. The other is to get him into doing brain gym exercises, cross crawl, because more than likely this hyperactive disorder is his left and right brain are not connecting. And so this is also a great uh, uh, lifestyle that the parents can initiate with this young man. Maybe he never crawled. Maybe he just, as a child, just started walking and running. That's usually the sign for that hyperactive disorder. And of course, you have our wonderful Monica Corrado's book with the GAPS diet. This child should not be on any wheat. It should not be on heavy carbohydrates, sugar. This child needs the GAPS diet and or the Sally Fallon, the food recommendations from Nourishing Traditions. So this is all in my book. That's just one case. So these other two, how am I doing for time? 1:15. I'm doing well. So the second case of a doctor, this is a menopausal female, 63 years old. She does have her ovaries and uterus. She's had 5 children and she's overweight. 5'6". She should be about 150 at the most at 5'6". So now we know that menopausal women always put on 5 to 10 pounds. Any more than that, then you're getting into other issues with metabolism, which I won't go into today, but she's carrying too much weight. And she has extreme menopausal symptoms, low energy and stamina, mild depression, very typical, right? Along with that weight. Maybe she doesn't have good body image and that's bothering her. The other thing that they emphasized of all her, I just picked 3, was she has this chronic issue in her pelvic area. Now, it's common with women that they have a tipped uterus or after children, having children, their uterus sits on their bladder and vaginal area, puts pressure, a lot of nerve pressure. So I address that in my lifestyle suggestions with her, but mainly it is to work with the pain factor with her. She is always uncomfortable. Now that alone, if you're in chronic pain, that gives you a form of mild depression because the body is depressed. It's working with a situation of violation because the body is not functioning normally. It's a real problem with a lot of people. So remember, if you get clients, I always ask them, hey, how do you feel? Do you have any pain in your body? Always in my initial intake, because the body cannot live with chronic pain. It starts a metabolic descendancy into lower function and inflammation. If your body's in pain, you have major inflammatory processes going on if the pain is all the time. So that's how I address. Now, again, I'm not going to go into it because of time, but I gave her the Simplex F, pituitary, thyroid, adrenal, and ovarian, 4 twice a day on an empty stomach. And that is very important, and it's in the protocol in my book, as you can see in my menopause protocol here. So what I did with her was I took the main product, the first product in my menopause protocol, and gave her that. Now, for the depression, and which, as I say, can get very severe with menopausal women, anxiety. I put her on the Minchex and then my Vitality blend. So did I have my I don't think I have my Vitality blend in here. Now, I could have given her, you know, wild yam complex. And you can see the mint checks here in the top. It's the third product. Or support her adrenals with herbs. But I decided to work with a specific blend listed in my book that I just repeated this. So if you look on page of my book, 397, you'll see that I made all of these blends over the years since I've been studying herbal medicine with Lee Carroll and Kerry Bone and others. And I made these blends for my clients and for myself, which some of you are familiar with. But the Vitality blend in particular is key for someone with anxiety, depression, and menopause. And I'm just going to briefly mention, Damiana is an herb that is famous in Central and South America for low libido, low energy, depression, sadness, weight gain. It is, which they don't like it being described, it is an aphrodisiac. And men can take this product too. So what I did was most of my blends are 3 herbs. So there's the Damiana. And then what is ashwagandha? Ashwagandha is equivalent to something like a Catalin. It has a global effect on bringing the energy back into the body. It is not an adrenal herb. Please don't interpret it that way. It's not how it's taught. In fact, there is an ashwagandha complex now that's in tablet form. Just came out again. I don't know why they re-released it. I don't know if they changed the formula, but ashwagandha has been used in all over the world, but specifically India, for children that don't eat meat. Hindu children that they're not allowed to eat meat. They're no energy and they're starving. And ashwagandha is an herb that helps with that vitality factor throughout the body. It's not specific to any part of the body. And then the third herb is Rehmannia. Rehmannia is the queen of herbs for the kidneys. Now, why is that so important? Because in all the teachings, long before reductionism and what has been taught in the US about vitamin supplements for thousands of years, the kidney meridian is the largest meridian in the body, and it's key to energy. It's key to energy and vitality. So I blended these 3 herbs. I go through how to do it. And then I recommended that she just do a half a tablespoon in the morning. There's a little alcohol in there, but if you take it with some food, you won't even notice it. And a half a tablespoon in the evening. That's how I recommended it for this woman. So, so here is the protocol, as I say, and Simplex F, that endocrine piece, she's a new client. She needs to get her endocrine system back communicating, back up and running, back into regulation. Work with those essential minerals and the hyaluronidase to thin out the neurotransmitters that are bunching up in all of her nerve synapses, making her so troubled and disturbed. Of course, the Vitality blend. Then the last product with her is Boswellia Complex. Now, I know that recently you've had turmeric forte. Some of you are using it for pain and inflammation. But you know what I've been finding? It does not work for everyone. For pain and inflammation, it does other things. It really helps the brain. They've used turmeric for 5,000 years in India and in the East of the world, Eastern cultures, for brain function, of course. But Boswellia, this particular blend of herbs in a tablet form, and it does have some turmeric in there, by the way, but it adds in Boswellia, frankincense, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. It at least goes back to the time of Jesus, 2,000 years, for pain and inflammation. But this is my go-to product. It's never not worked for me. Now, I recommended she take 2 twice a day, but if she wanted to, and I said this to the practitioner, she could take 2, 3 times a day, 2, 4 times a day. If it brings down that pain level and gets it so she can sleep better, she can function during the day if she's, vacuuming the house, exercising without this constant pain. So that's the product. Is another from the Medier book, the Medier clinical reference guide. Some nice reading there for you. So what could she do? She was already doing some pelvic exercises. The one that I have found the most helpful for her life is the Kegel, of course. And whoops, what did I do? Sorry. Hold on 1 second. But the Kegel exercise, sorry. No, I don't know why it's doing that. Let me just, there it goes. The Kegel exercise is not just for during pregnancy, to tonify that area. And that's its big claim to fame, is to tonify and help to bring greater circulation into that area of the body. So sorry, I don't want to spin this thing again, so that's why I'm moving it. And the other important factor with her is she needs to really look at this. Now, I've had clients over the years, and they really need to look at whether she does need this bladder prolapse repair surgery. So cystocell surgery. And what they do is they tie the uterus up, and it's orthoscopic, so they're not cutting into the abdomen. It's pretty non-invasive other than the anesthetic. And I tell you, for menopausal women that suffer with this, and they're always, they have to use some type of a covering or diaper or some type of sanitary padding, because if they cough, they laugh, they sneeze, they wet in their pants. And so it's a terrible way to live. And I've had at least a dozen women that I've recommended this to, and it changed their life. And that's why I highly recommend that. So you can look that up. Obviously, you talk to an OBGYN about that. The other, where is the other? The other recommendations for this woman is to encourage someone, especially a new client, to get into eating differently, to change the way they eat. Now, this woman had taken some steps, which is great, but to get into something like, I made several recommendations, intermittent fasting. And this TED Talk that this doctor, she's a registered dietitian and a nurse that gives this TED Talks, teaches intermittent fasting. And it's a very impressive TED Talk. That's why I put it in my book. And so you can get that. You should just Google that online and listen to her. You'll be impressed. The other thing for her, which I recommend to all of us, is every change of season, 4 times a year, you do one of the standard process 10-day programs. They have, I think they have a female hormone 10-day, they have a blood sugar, and they have an inflammation program. Now, you could say, well, Joe, why didn't you do the inflammation program? And that may be a good recommendation for her for the next one. Maybe she could rotate them. They use different products within that. But quarterly, every 3 months, we should all take a break in what we're eating, eat less, and take specific supplements. My concern with anyone that is menopausal, any woman, and andropausal in men, if you're depressed, you're putting on weight, you can't get your glycemic index functioning right, it could be a blood sugar issue. Oftentimes it's hidden. It's one of those other layers. So here was the other possibility. And then, of course, if she just said, well, just give me a diet. Well, I usually have them do the ketogenic diet for about 6 weeks. You don't want to go too long with that. It's very effective for losing weight. And then switch to the paleo diet. You can go to the Mayo Clinic for that, and they give you the recommendations. So the last one, just to finish up here, is a 90-year-old male, a 70-year-old male, excuse me, with, again, he had a lot going on, but I said, give me the 3 things that he really wants help with. The first one is glaucoma, which he has suffered with. And, there's always the risk of going blind. Now, at 70, you've got a potentially 20 more years in your life. You don't want to live it blind. And asthma of long standing. So now you know that there is a pattern with him with not only grief, the lungs, anything to do with the lungs is maybe the body's grieving, or maybe there's a mental and emotional grief. How do you address that? And he says, I'm getting old. I'm falling apart. So you would use in my book, the foundational support. So if you look at glaucoma, again, you can't give somebody all of these products. Pick the first one in my book. Make that part of your 3 or 4 protocols. Maybe if he wanted to take a little bit more, fine, but there it is. And you can read, which I'm out of time, so you can read this, and Mark is going to go into this product on Saturday, which is going to blow your mind. It's truly what they were using this for before the invention of all these drugs and surgery was truly humbling, and its effectiveness. Or you could, and then for the asthma, and you could say, well, asthma needs a lot. I know that. But again, don't start them with too much. You'll chase them away. They'll get discouraged. Use the primary product, which is Numitrophin. Now, I have 2 twice a day here, but you could go up to 3 twice a day, or even 4 if the asthma is bad. And when you read what Lee said about Numitrophin, and by the way, anybody with an issue with sinuses, also this product works. So, and he even talks about, which I was going to read to you, but again, time is moving on here, pulmonary hypertension, Numitrophin. That's why when you read Lee's thoughts in a few words, you're going to get more clinical pearls than we could ever teach you. Of course, I recommended the Min checks for him because the asthma, asthmatics tend to be more on the acid, too acid, hyperacidity. So Mintran has the organically bound minerals. Asthmatics cannot relax. There's your Orchex. He was dealing with hypertension. There's Orchex again. So I included all of that in. And again, that's a repeat. So what did I do with the aging and functional support? Well, new client, Simplex M in his case, Immuplex. I could have at 70 years old given him Ferrofood, in my senior protocol, you'll see that. And Mark's teaching and lectures to us on Ferrofood. It's an incredible multivitamin for senior citizens. But I felt with COVID right now, he gets a lot of colds easily. I thought Immuplex would be the best one for him. So again, I want you to read through these. This is your homework, to read through what Lee was thinking. Why did he make Simplex F with orchic extract? And you can read about what he was saying there. And of course, our beloved John Courtney talking about Immuplex here out of the clinical reference guide, which a lot of you have. So what did I recommend for him? 70-year-old guy with asthma. Wonderful gentleman. 30 to 60 minutes of walking a day. I don't care if he can only walk for 5 minutes. Start with 5, but that's your goal, is to work up to that. For the glaucoma, use the eye palming. This is a healing technique that was passed down to me by my teachers and grandparents that we've used for my whole life, almost 70 years now. And of course, what diet would you give this gentleman? You'd give him the sympathetic, which is again in my book, that food guide. You could, copy it out of the book and put it on his refrigerator so he can see how he needs to eat every day. Or he could buy my book. That would be wonderful. So that's what I would do. These are the beginning points of all of these 3 cases, and you can see how I thought through, I hope you can, how I developed a protocol based on the 3 findings using 3 or 4 products. Now, the older gentleman at the end, I did list 5 products. So, but again, if he didn't want to take them, then you just use the first 3 and deal with it that way. So I hope you've enjoyed this. We have a little bit of time for Sarah, if someone has a question, and it's my honor to be with you as always, to teach you, and you're most welcome to be on the webinar tomorrow as well with Lynn and I, 11 o'clock Mountain. And don't forget to be on Mark's Anderson's on Saturday. Sign up for that. You have to sign up ahead of time. Sarah or Lynn, Carol has her hand raised. Unless she can unmute. Can they unmute?
I don't think so.
Oh. Can you see what she's asking?
Oh.
No.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Joseph?
I can hear you fine. Absolutely.
Okay. So there is, just for people to know, we put Joseph's email address in the box, which you're going to have to email him to get the notes. So we apologize. Something happened. We were not able to download them. I put the link for my Dropbox in there, but for those people not wanting to access it, just email Joseph and we'll get the notes to you.
And
but there is a couple.
Go ahead, Lynn. There is a couple. What? Oh, yes. Before you ask the questions, so I am creating a part of one of my websites, and creating all my recorded talks with the notes, and this will be in there. So it will be, what am I creating, Lynn?
Well, it's going to be YouTube link, I think.
Yeah, a YouTube.
That's what
yeah,
you're doing?
It'll be a YouTube link. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So one question was a question about inositol benefits the Krebs cycle? Question mark. I just want to clarify.
Yeah. Yes. So in order for cellular respiration to take place, that particular B vitamin, in cooperation with B4 and B1, adenosine, that helps the Krebs cycle function normally. So that's all you have to remember. And that's why a lot of people, for instance, with diabetes, if you look at inositol, if I can find it here, where Dr. Lee says it's one of the main products with diabetics because they have, for many reasons, they're a very low functioning Krebs cycle. So they don't get the nutrients to the cell do not work well. And for normal brain function as well. And when you, when I teach you the depression and anxiety, that session, I'll go into children and the use of inositol for them. But here it is: muscular dysfunction, parasympathetic atonia, people that are too slow inwardly, gallbladder disease, liver disease, hypothyroid. So you could see that this is for the person that their insides, the cycle of their metabolic, how their cells breathe and function is suppressed. It's too low. Okay. What else?
Okay, there's a second question regarding the heart. So after a recent onset was 8 months ago, physical damage to the mitral valve, the echocardiogram confirmed mitral valve prolapse with severe regurgitation. Can the valve heal itself using the protocol?
Yes, over time. Now, that's one that I said earlier on when I was discussing that with you, the length of time for a protocol. That's a protocol they're probably going to have to be on for the rest of their life, but particularly the Cataplex B core. And I can't look it up in my book right now, but that's probably the #1 product for because that dysfunction in that valve and that prolapse of it obviously creates various imbalances, but especially the rhythm of the heart and heart leakage, the tone of the heart. And so along with that, of course, you would use cardiotrophin. But to answer your question, yes, the heart valve can heal over time. Yep. And I've had 2 cases in my life with young children where either the heart did not close up and one, there was damage to the valve in the uterus. And I gave the mother cardiotrophin and Cataplex B. And by the time the baby was born, they thought the baby would die at birth. By the time the baby was born, it had repaired itself. So it took months. So now with grown humans, of course, the rate of repair and healing is much slower. But to answer your question, yes, of course, maybe some vitamin E with that, or maybe some vitamin C for the promotion of collagen. Because remember, that valve is cartilage. So that probably is in the protocol as well.
And don't overlook the specific magnesium deficiency associated with mitral prolapse.
Yes, that's right. That's right, Mark. Absolutely. So, and the magnesium, the Easy Mag, by the way, not sure when it's coming out. It's in a powdered form, which was not popular for some reason. Most of us found it, very easy to put into a shake and apply it into our morning nutrition, but they are going to put it into a big tablet form like the Cataplex B core. So you'll see that when that product comes out. And Mark gave a great section of one of the Back to Schools for Doctors on the range of magnesium, which, as he commented, one main range of the magnesium spectrum is for prolapse valves. So you don't always get that, like magnesium lactate, you may not get that range, but the Easy Mag has the entire range of factors related to the full scope of the magnesium molecule. So, anything else?
Yes, you probably said it and I missed it.
That's okay.
Are B1 and B4, this is a question in the chat box. Are B1 and B4 in an inositol, or do you have to add Cataplex B?
Yes, that's a great, actually that brings up a great conversation. So if you're going to use, say, choline, inositol, as a separate B vitamin, remember in nature, all the B vitamins must occur together. So you would always add in the full scope and then emphasize, just like Cataplex G emphasizes B2 and B3, but it's in the full scope. Cataplex B emphasizes B1 and B4, but it has the full scope. So to answer your question, which is, I'm so glad you brought that up. If you're going to use an inositol, yes, you would want to add in the full spectrum of B vitamins along with it. Now, for that boy, you could say, well, why didn't you do that with this boy? But I did do it because in Orchex, in the Minchex has Orchex. Orchex has the whole complement of B vitamin in there through the niacinamide B6. You can read the label because you need to find the food sources where the full spectrum of the B vitamins is present. And so, yes, that's always a good idea to add in a full B complex, especially the Cataplex B core. Now, I'm going to teach you a lot about that next month in my related to my book and the cardiovascular protocols. So you will see, and we're going to show you, if you weren't on Tim Bayan's lecture last weekend, you're going to see that we've gotten results with the B core that we normally get with just Cataplex G. So that's telling us, this is why the heart sound recorder is so essential. Say you had a pre-systolic murmur that showed up and you gave them the B core, which I did with my own brother. It cleared the pre-systolic, which you usually use G for, which is truly remarkable. And we're learning more about this Cataplex B core every day from all of you in our clinical findings. So, and we'll, that's more to be discovered about that product for sure. Anything else?
No, Donna Parr has a question, and I don't know if this is an appropriate place to answer the question, but so can you heal a PFO, which is a patent foramen ovale, I think that's the way it's pronounced, of heart in a 74-year-old woman? So I don't know what that condition is. You may know, but.
Well, it's a good question about anything in anything related to tissue structure. Why did it break down? Well, if it broke down because it was malnourished, if you provide the nutrients and the micronutrients and you remove the burden with the protomorphogen and you give it the vitamin and mineral, the answer is yes. Anything can heal. The degree of healing depends on how much they're able to absorb it, how good their lifestyle is, so they're not depleting the healing substances that you're giving through their nutrition. If you're eating bleached white floured bread every day and you're taking Cataplex B core, the healing is not going to be as effective, and maybe not at all. Depends. Or you're not absorbing nutrients if you don't have good gut. So good gut health. So yes, the answer to that is anything is possible. And we have, of course, you know, soon Mark and I, between us, will have 100 years of clinical findings and experience. We have seen it all. We've seen all of the change in people's lives. Is it as if they were, you know, before they had the condition? Not always, but at least they have quality of life. But applying the principles that I've reviewed for you today, because you can't just give them supplements. The supplements are helpful, they're great, they're useful, they have to change their life. So anyway, Donna, I hope that answers. It's a long-winded answer to your question.
That's it, Joseph.
Good. Well, thank you all. It was a delight to be with you, as I said, and look forward to being with some of you tomorrow and all of us with Mark on Saturday. Really, and I should say Dr. Keppel as well, because the second 3 hours, the products Mark talks about in the first 3, Dr. Keppel is going to show you how to use these in your clinical practice and your clinical experience. So, well, thank you all very much. Talk to you soon. Thanks,
Thank you,
Lynn.
Joseph.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.